Hey everyone, are you thinking about powering your van with the Yeti power station? Wonder how capable it is? What ways there are to charge it? Well, you've come to the right place. In this video, we are going to run through some of the upgrades to the Yeti X models. As well, we're going to show some real-world situations for usage and talk through the 3 ways we plan to charge our Yeti 3000X while on the road. I have included chapters in this video so that you can jump to specific sections you hope to learn about. You can do that in the video bar or down in the description box below. As always, all of the products we use are listed there too. As many of you know from our previous electrical videos, we started out with a goalzero 400 AGM system. We always had the intention of upgrading to a lithium unit. Recently, REI had their anniversary sale, and so we had a 20% off discount, so we went ahead and picked up the Yeti 3000X. It may be a larger system than we need because it does boast a 280 amp hour battery, lithium ion battery. I think that will give us a lot of ability to get off grid, and if the sun isn't out, if it's rainy and stuff, have a few days worth of usage without having to worry too much. So in terms of some of the upgrades over the version 2 models that the Yeti X line has, let's dive into them. So one of the first things I noticed is that the MPPT charger is built into this. Previously, all goalzeros had a PWM charge controller in them, and there was a module that you could install under the lid here that would have an MPPT charge controller in it. So it's nice that it's integrated into the system now, and it's integrated in from the 15, the 3000, and the 6000X. This also plays into how much solar this can take in. In previous models, they had a max of 360 watts of solar that you could take into the unit that the charge controller could actually do something with. And it also maxed out at 22 volts, which a lot of solar panels are around 21 volts. So you couldn't do much in terms of changing up the series parallel type connections. Now this has a 50 volt input max or 600 watts. So you can do a lot of different things with your solar on your roof. One of the other things to mention, when you are powering a van, a lot of items run off 12 volt. In the past, they didn't have regulated outputs, which now they do, which is huge. The other thing with their outputs, they have upped how much can come out of a lot of the items. Previously, you needed a max current cable to get 40 amps out of all 4 of the outputs. Now, the Anderson power pole, or they've kind of rebranded it as a high power port, it can actually output 30 amps, which should be more than enough for pretty much your whole 12 volt system in a van, depending on what items you have. I know for us, we're maxing out our 10 amp output in the 400 unit. Having a 30 amp output or a 360 watt output should cover us for everything we have in the van. Another huge upgrade for their AC inverter, they upgraded it to a 2000 watt inverter with a 3500 watt surge, which, when something is starting up, sometimes it surges up quite a bit. That can pretty much cover any AC appliance that most people have in their house. Pretty much anything that you can plug in should be good to go. One other thing that they've done is upgraded the Yeti app. So now there is Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capabilities so that you can connect to your Yeti from away from your van, and doing so you can turn on power outlets. Say you had your water heater running and you didn't want it running all day, you wanted to turn off your AC, you could do that. It also allows you to see what percentage of battery you have. There are also different profiles you can set to have a performance mode, different ways of your battery being used so that it saves power in those times where you're getting low. So first thing out of the box, you want to make sure you charge up your goalzero. So I have charged it up. It is at 100%, as you can see. So now I want to show you guys some of the real world applications. First up, my laptop is at 10%. So let's get that plugged in and make sure it charges up to 100%. It is showing our output at 54 watts. It gives you the time to empty. Frank's sleeping in front of it, so let's see if we can get it there. Just looked at my laptop here a minute ago, and it was at 58%, up from the 10 that we were at. The battery's only gone down 1%. The output has gone down to 31 watts because it is in sleep mode, so it's not taking as many watts as it was while it is running the screen. But yeah, we still have, it says 45.8 hours to empty. So basically, if we continued to have 31 watts out, we could go 45.8 hours until it's dead. Battery's fully charged. As you can see, it leaves 9 watts as the AC is still on. So once you turn that off, it goes to 0. But we only dropped to 97% for our laptop charging. So Katie and my normal routine is we have whole bean coffee that we put in our coffee grinder. And we boil water in our fellow electric kettle. So let's go ahead and see how those perform. So I think it looked like it was at 100 watts max. So let's go ahead and boil our water. So I went ahead and filled the water line up to the max. And we currently have it set to 212 degrees. It's showing that the water is at 69 degrees currently. And this runs at 1035 watts. So it's gone down about 2% since we put the water kettle in. When you think about this output, that is also over an hour of time. That's why it's showing hours to empty is 2.5 hours, because the Yeti 3000 should have about 3,000 watts within it. We're already at 95%, 1024 per hour, kind of broken down over 2.5 hours. So this will go up and slowly get to the 212 at the very end. As you can see, the output has already gone down. It raises and lowers that heating element temperature in there as it's getting close to the mark. It'll jump down to almost 0, jump up a little bit to warm it up. In the end here, we drop down to 93%. Pretty awesome. These are the first few things that we would be doing in the van. Maybe not charging the laptop that early in the day, but making coffee would be the first thing pretty much every day. So one thing that Katie and I like to do is make smoothies. I'm going to go ahead, grab a bunch of things, and put our BlendTech blender to work. And we'll go ahead and just do the smoothie feature. Sweet. So it maxed out at like, what, 1100 watts, somewhere in there, and it's still at 93%. All right, next real world scenario. I have a couple GoPro batteries. These are our main camera, when we're filming things like I'm on right now. I'm going to go the inefficient route and put my phone charger in the AC. It's at 46%. Looks like it'll charge in an hour and a half. This will come with us in the van. Or at least something similar. And so I'm going to go ahead and just get this plugged in as well. So coming in the van for output, I made this section of our bench seat to house our goalzero. So here is our cable. I have an Anderson to ring cable. It's 10 AWG wire, so it should be able to hold no problem the 30 amps that this port can max out at. And like I said, it goes to a ring terminal, so it goes to our blade fuse box. So we'll go ahead and plug this in to that high power outlet. It has a nice firm hold in there, so I'm not really too worried about it coming out. You have to hit that 12 volt. You could hear the fans bump up there. Let's go ahead and, there's 2 light switches. Go ahead and throw the fan on. Max that out. So currently we're pulling 53 watts. I do have remotes, but I have not utilized them yet. So max out the fan there. Flip the switch for our water pump. So we're sitting at 140, 136 watts out. With our 400 unit, we would never have been able to do that. That would have already maxed it out. One of the other tests that I want to check out is if I can turn our heater on from our fuse panel. Before, I couldn't do it from the actual outputs on the goalzero because they maxed out at 120, and sometimes that startup was a lot higher than that. Still showing that it's pulling 130, 140, 120. It sounds like the initial startup. Oh, just started hearing my fuel pump go. Oh yeah, it's already blowing out hot air. We're sitting at 140 watts, 130 watts. So as you can see, with that 400, I would have been maxed out, and there would be no way that I could run that. Dropped down to 89% from 91. This is a lot of things running, so man, it is doing a great job of it though. This is awesome. Like, both fans were running, everything else was running. We're down to 44 watts. That's the lights and the heater going. Even though it's warm outside, I'm actually going to let our heater run for half an hour. If you have a Webasto heater or any gasoline heater, you should once a month run it for at least a half an hour. That will help keep it maintained, burn off any carbon, all that stuff. All right, a few minutes in, I turned the fan on just to try to air out some of the heat, because obviously it's warm outside and putting more heat in the van is no fun. But so the fan's running, both the living and bed lights are on. I did run the faucet a couple times more, and yeah, we're just gonna let it sit here for another 25 minutes or so, just to let the heater go and hopefully run down the goalzero a little bit more. Heater, fan, everything's still going, lights are still on. We're sitting at 44 watts going out and 89%, so it hasn't even dropped. I ran through a battery this morning. I'm gonna go ahead and plug my battery in as well. Came back outside, turned off the heater, turned off the fan, still have the lights on, and my GoPro battery charging here. But we are down to 88%. That ended up being about 40 minutes that I ran the heater, just so that I could make sure it ran a whole heating cycle. 88%, that is pretty good. For what we've used this for already, that is pretty average stuff. So I think it shows that this system will work really well. Hopefully those real-world applications were helpful for you to see if this was something that you would want to use in your van. But let's go ahead and move on to charging. Straight out of the box, goalzero suggests that you charge this to 100%. Most people would use the charger that comes with the unit. This is a 230 watt charger that you can plug into your unit, into a standard outlet at your house, and should pull in about 230 watts into the unit. From empty, that means it should charge in about 14 hours. From 50%, you could guess around 7 hours. So depending on how much charge you have in your unit, you can really kind of narrow that down. One upgrade goalzero has put out is the Yeti X 600 watt charger. This plugs into your wall and puts almost 600 watts into your unit. So from empty, this should be able to charge your goalzero in about 6 hours. Again, 50%, 3 hours, and then you can kind of deduce that from, you know, going through the percentage of battery that you have left in your unit. So the 600 watt power supply is a replacement for the 25 amp charger. If you have one of those 25 amp fast chargers that were with the older models, it is not suggested that you use it for the Yeti X models, and it would be worthwhile looking into switching it out for one of these. To be able to have shore power for our van, we went ahead and installed a shore power plug on the side of our van. We just used a 120 pass-through type extension cord, and it works just great for this application rather than having one of the 240 outlets. And that pass-through cable comes out right here. So first, I'm going to plug in the standard 230 watt wall charger. It has the connector right here, and so that just clips on in there, and it is settling at about 220, 219 watts. So one of the things that you can see on the screen here is how many hours to full. So in 2.2 hours, it's saying that utilizing 22 watts out from our lights and our GoPro battery, we're taking in the 220 watts from the wall, and it should charge it up in 2.2 hours. So let's move on to the fast charger. So it has the same hookups, a standard AC plug, and that same hookup, that high power port, and then on the actual device there is an on switch. So as it goes up, I just want to mention, you need to make sure you update your firmware in the unit so that it doesn't jump around. One of the firmware problems that they had in the past was that the input would jump from a few hundred up to the 600, down, up, but now with the firmware update that I did on my machine, it is pulling in 594 watts, which is nearly as much as this can do, because it's a 600 watt charger. So that is pretty good and pretty efficient. It says 1.2 hours to full charge. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. So our next form of charging is solar. We have 200 watts of solar on the roof. It's something that we can definitely up in the future. We have a lot of space between our two fans. We thought for a little while we wanted to put a deck on, but with as many dogs as we have, they wouldn't be going up there, and it would probably be pretty annoying them barking at us down from the ground. We have MC4 connectors from our two panels on the roof that come down, and I have an MC4 to Anderson pole. Everything is 10 gauge wire, so it should be spec'd to be able to handle all the voltages and stuff that we have. So we'll go ahead and plug that in here. It's the same port as the AC. And as I said, there is an MPPT charger built into the 3000X, actually the 15, 3000, and 6000X. And so it should give you a little bit more efficiency in charging from solar. Currently, the skies outside are pretty overcast, and we're pulling in 82 watts. Coming outside, that is the sun right there. And it is very overcast and cloudy today. One of the upgrades that I did for our van is I put a solar tilt mount on. So we're gonna get up there and show you that. Currently looking in the van, it's showing 76 watts. I set up a camera to show how it jumps up when we put the panels up. So hopefully we can see that in real time. These are Renogy Eclipse panels. I have them locked down with these little twist connectors. I put in plus nuts like that. So we go ahead and lift that up. I know hopefully with where the sun is, that angle will be worthwhile. I mainly made it for winter, of course, because the sun is a lot lower on the horizon, but it is springtime, so it is starting to get higher up in the sky. So I would make sure that the van is angled this way. So hopefully that would show more gain than being angled kind of away from the sun now, because it's out this direction and not that direction. It is at 65 watts once I put them back down, and it's showing that it would be 9 hours before it was fully charged from 89%. That might help some of you know how much solar you need. Obviously it is very overcast today. If we get a sunny day in the next few days before this video posts, I will do my best to get back out here and show you the solar in a sunny day, because obviously being as overcast as it is, we're not getting as good a sun as we would. It also shows you that in overcast days, you can definitely get some solar input without worry. Hey guys, so the sun is out today. It's actually behind the clouds a little bit here, but coming in, we are getting in 152 watts from our 200 watts of solar, and that's with a little bit of cloud cover there. One of the things to notice though is the sun is straight up above our heads. So there's no real reason to use the solar tilt mount in these conditions. Really, it's wintertime where the sun is more at that 30-degree mark on the horizon rather than straight up in the top of the sky. The third way of charging is with the Yeti Link module. So with this, you can charge from your alternator on your car. Basically, it's a battery to battery or B2B or DC to DC charger. So there are ring terminals that connect to your vehicle's battery underneath the seat, and they will run back through a 12-foot cable to connect to this. So the first thing we have to do is take this Yeti Link and install it under the cover here. So this plastic piece here has a handful of screws, and then they sent us new screws to put in the corners for this module to go in. That exposes a micro USB and this EC8 connector underneath here. So you go ahead and plug both of these in. This is a communication cable, and this is the thing to power it. So once we got the Yeti Link installed in this spot here, there is a little reset button in this little hole. You have to make sure to push that 4 times to turn it from tank mode into car mode. And so see that it's flashing the full bars. That means that it is now in car mode. So if I go ahead and do it again and do 4 times, now this is tank mode. It'll show you this step pattern. So go ahead and do that again. 4 times. And now it's flashing full green bars. So we know that it's in car mode. Car mode is so that it doesn't take in power from your battery unless the alternator is charging. It has a built-in circuitry to be able to not drain your battery. Another thing though is there was a firmware update recently in the last couple of weeks to make sure that it would work with the Yeti X models. Make sure that you're doing the firmware update first, otherwise it could drain down the battery on your vehicle, which could leave you with a dead battery in the middle of nowhere. Now that we got that Yeti Link installed, let's move on to the cables. Goalzero currently has a voluntary recall on the cables that came with the car charging kit. So this is the kit that connects to the battery, positive and negative. And then this has this EC8 connector that connects to a 12-foot extension cable that then connects into the Yeti Link from the back of your Goalzero. These cables, this connection was what was recalled, and now they have a locking bit so that these two lock together, and then the back of the cable will lock together into the Yeti Link module. So I have those in the mail. I'll show you that update in a future video here. But for now, I'm still going to install this because it still does work. They just don't suggest that you use it. Here is the cable that I have routed through the van, through the wall. This cable will connect into it with that piece there. And then these are going to connect to the battery. For the positive, that's under this little cover. I will just go ahead and connect to this positive on the left here. And then for the negative side, I'm just going to connect to the top of the cable that is grounding the battery. But I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery first. There is a quick connect here that you can push just like that. And then you just got to wiggle it free. There we go. So I am going to go ahead and do the disconnect here. There is a little housing here that the cable can come out of. I made sure to route it off of this post and through that little channel. And then for the negative side, I took, which was the old cover for one of our posts in the back, and I just covered the terminal so that I don't ground out anything. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this cord in first. Just like that. I actually might be taking it off right after we're done with this video because I have on order those new cords like I said. Now we're gonna go ahead and get this reattached. There we go. That's all cleaned up throughout that little cabinet here. I also will probably, I have some old foam that I use for under the floor. So I'll probably put some foam in there too. Anywhere there's like, there could be rubbing of some sort. This is the one I ran through the wall. When I get those new cables, I'm gonna have to figure out changing it up some. But this connects in to the back of the Yeti link. You can see those that copper color there. A little bit further there. There we go. So like I said, we made sure that this was changed into the car mode, which was those, just like that, 4 flashing buttons. I was worried that it was going to say it was going to start charging. But it must know that there's some, you know, that it's hooked up now. So we're going to go ahead and start up the vehicle and see how much input we're getting. Currently in idle, we are getting in 47 watts from, oh, that's bumping up, 94 watts now, 137 watts currently. If we were driving, that would be bumped up even more because usually in idle, your alternator isn't running as confidently. So, whoa, there we go. 238 watts. It is showing that it would take 1.7 hours, 1.6 hours to charge completely from the 89%. So just think, if you were going an hour away to a campsite, we would be at 100% from 89%. Frank says it's time to eat. So does the baby. No, she's gonna get him. Get him. All right, I left it charged for a little bit longer just to see where it was at. And holy cow, it is pulling in 600 watts, 599 watts, 624 watts, 650 watts, holy cow. So I think the max is 700 and some. It really depends on the alternator you have in your vehicle, the battery, you know, the vehicle type that you have, battery size, all that. But 629 watts, I mean, in an hour of driving, we would be golden and our whole entire system would be topped up. So that is pretty incredible. I can't even believe it right now. I am pumped. So the last thing I will say, goalzero states that the car charging kit can charge anywhere from 25 amps up to 50 amps and 300 watts up to 750 watts. So we were seeing a pretty good input with our car charging kit. And like I said, those cables are currently recalled. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the cables already, just because I know those new ones will be in the mail in the next few weeks. Once that new kit comes out, this is a great option for van life, because obviously we're a very nomadic bunch, driving from state park to national forest to whatever it be. So being able to charge at that level, especially when driving, it should be a little bit better than idling the engine, and we were seeing that much input just idling. So what an option. So the last thing I want to talk about is powering things around the van. Obviously we went into the 12-volt output a little bit earlier with this Anderson power pole connector in 10 gauge wires that connect down to our Blue Sea Systems fuse panel, just with a ring connector on the other side. And then we have wire from that goes around the van to all of our appliances. If you want to see more about that, I have a couple electrical videos that I will link up in the corner over there. The other thing for AC plugs around the van, I ended up doing extension cords that I will be able to plug right into our AC side. And as you can see, there is one there at our kitchen area. There's one back in the garage, and when we finish our bench seat, I will probably have one sitting here as well. To wire those up, I just use an extension cord to a standard household 15 amp outlet. You can see that in the wall video, which I will post up in the corner there as well. If you do have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will be sure to reach out to you and answer them by commenting back. So that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed following along as I showed you our electrical system and all of the ways we charge our goalzero. If you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. It helps us out a lot with the algorithm. If you want to see more videos from us, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to be notified as we post new content. And we will see you guys on the next one. Bye. Hey, want me to throw it again?